The series Murder Drones is chock full of mysteries and puzzles to solve, but the most alluring, the most dangerous, and the most perplexing is the question, what is Absolute Solver? In this theory video, I will not only reveal the answer to this diabolical program, but also present its possible origins and its central role in the overall plot for Murder Drones. At the risk of people saying in a month or two that this theory has aged like milk, I will present it to you as a fine wine for your consideration. And hey, if I happen to be wrong, we all know that at least Puss in Boots will still enjoy it. No, I don't think that I'm wrong here with this theory, and it actually surprises me when I look back at my first theory video on Murder Drones just how much I got right with so little. And now that we have received a lot more evidence from Liam and Glitch, I think we are ready to tackle the mysteries behind Absolute Solver and uncover some of the twisted reveals Liam Vickers has in store for us all. Hi there everyone, Lars here from Camille's Harem, not just a podcast for novice writers by novice writers, but also a YouTube channel by novice writers for novice writers. Because writing is an adventure, it's more fun with friends. Now, let's have a look at what Absolute Solver is. And I'm not going to bury the lead or dance around the topic at all. Absolute Solver is the program necessary to transform a drone into a god.
Ugh, I'm sweaty! Who programmed that?
You good, Uzi?
I'm good. Better than good. I am God!
No, I'm serious here. Liam Vickers gave us the answer on an oil-dripping silver platter. Throughout all of his works, he loves having characters say things that sound like fourth-wall-breaking commentary, but are straight-up responses and insights into what is really going on. It's an element to his wacky sense of humor. So when Uzi says that she's a god, she's not exactly lying, especially since Absolute Solver is at that point active within her. So, let's have a look at what Absolute Solver can do that makes a drone with this program activated into a terrifying godlike entity. Absolute Solver grants the power of energy manipulation, as seen by all the blasts and broken mirrors and ways in which material is destroyed. Absolute Solver grants telekinetic powers by reading and registering items within the user's line of sight and then taking control of those objects. Absolute Solver can create. Not only can random materials be assimilated for the creation process, but we see Doll even duplicate weapons seemingly out of thin air. And I'll return to that point in a bit. Absolute Solver has even hinted at the ability to hack other drones. Absolute Solver has been used to tear other drones apart or even completely flatten them. Absolute Solver can extend a drone's consciousness and take in more information about the area surrounding them, making them nearly omniscient to anything within their line of sight. And Absolute Solver even grants healing abilities to the drone using it, so much to the extent that Doll is able to bring herself back from the brink of death. And also, let's not forget that Absolute Solver grants the ability to teleport. There's a whole lot that this program can do. It has amazing powers that at first glance sound wonderful to have. Except that Absolute Solver comes with the two obvious drawbacks. The first is that the program requires the consumption of oil. The second is the loss of sanity on the part of the user. And no, that doesn't mean transforming into a raving lunatic, but that the user loses who they are and they become a homicidal murderer, which is a double positive in the absolute worst way possible. So let's have a look at the consumption of oil and why that's significant. Absolute Solver grants many abilities to the user, as we've just seen, but holding that much power could easily burn out even a sentient drone. Furthermore, manipulating matter and energy requires tons of power. And as CERN in Switzerland has proved, energy can be used to create matter. So what we see with Doll there, creating more knives and hurling them, that's absolutely possible. But in order to do that, she has to consume tons of energy. And this comes in the form of cannibalizing her own fellow worker drones. So a user of Absolute Solver must consume tons of oil, which is most readily found in the bodies of the worker drones surrounding them. The second major drawback to using Absolute Solver is this whole deal with insanity. I'll elaborate on this even more later in the video, but right now, it's clear that this program has a very negative effect on those who use it. We can presume that Doll was a normal robot girl before using the program, and Uzi was a regular angsty teen before Absolute Solver was activated within her. Khan's stash of materials from Uzi and her mom indicate that Nori, Uzi's mom, was going crazy before the disassembly drones infected her with nanite acid, and he was forced to put her out of her misery. The point is that Absolute Solver messes with the user, likely corrupting them so that they will consume oil in order to further use that program and further corrupt them. And stating that brings me to address why Absolute Solver is an integral part to the entire plot of Murder Drones, and how it lies at the heart of many upcoming reveals, which will probably shift our understanding of everything that we've seen so far. When we piece together small blurbs, throwaway lines, and blink and you miss the moments, we get a bird's eye view of what is really going on, and who is all after Absolute Solver. Namely, we have the worker drones JC Jensen in space, and the alluded to Puppet Master. I'm going to break down each group and what they possibly want with Absolute Solver, starting with JC Jensen, then looking at the worker drones, and finally the Puppet Master. Now, JC Jensen in space, at first blush, appears very straightforward. A greedy, world-consuming, capitalist corporation who screwed up big time and destroyed life on an entire planet. But they couldn't just leave well enough alone, and decided to wipe out the worker drones at the very moment that they learned these little guys were sentient and were living prosperously on a dead world. However, the more I think about what is going on and what we've seen on screen, I think it goes way deeper than that. The nuclear blast that wiped out a planet? Oh, come on! A simple act of global extinction isn't going to stop a greedy company. Au contraire. They have the resources to keep sending drones and now humans to this world. So why not return and rebuild in a never-ending radioactive blizzard? I'm certain shareholders will see returns within a decade. Despite what Uzi says about her people's history, it's reasonable to assume that the event that killed off all the humans was no mere accident, but an attack. An attack instigated by a drone. And upon reviewing the data, JC Jensen realized that they had a big problem on their hands. Sentient androids with godlike powers. They had sponsored the creation of an entire civilization of these potentially dangerous worker drones who are now free and empowered with a devastating program, namely Absolute Solver. And there's this interesting line then that we get from Uzi that just always grabs my attention.
Now is so not the time! I messed up! In the same way I'm about to fix it! Move, Dad!
And she repeated it again for N.
That's super fair. I screwed up.
In the same way you're about to fix it?
When I take these two scenes together, it's clear that this is not just some joke, but a theme, and one that is applicable to not just Uzi, but the enemy, JC Jensen and their disassembly drones. Once the company figured out that they had helped to create this weird society of sentient androids with Absolute Solver that could make them all godlike, they decided to use their exact same screw-up in order to fix it. Think about it. Their disassembly drones are altered worker drones. These disassembly drones have the same Absolute Solver program latent in their makeup as do the other drones. However, it has been repurposed to let JC Jensen put more weapons into their killing machines and grant them regenerative powers. To fuel these abominations, the disassembly drones must consume oil from their fellow robots. And on top of that, should they ever leave the planet and enter Earth's sunlight, they'll instantly die. JC Jensen used the monsters they helped to create in order to create new monsters to destroy the old ones. And we see explicit evidence of this tampering when N is rebooting in episode 1 and in the internal system telling him that he needs to go and see a technician. And at the end of episode 3, Tessa, the technician, arrives to administer maintenance to the murder drones. She is very likely there to ensure that N and V get back on track and continue slaughtering their fellow drones. So in short, JC Jensen is using Absolute Solver to fix the problem they made by supporting the creation of robots programmed with Absolute Solver. Now, what about the worker drones? For the most part, they are completely oblivious to the fact that they have this amazing power built into them. However, some of them are aware of this program. Uzi and Dahl's mother appeared to have been part of some research or project that either used Absolute Solver or began experimenting with the program's abilities. The worker drones who have an obvious connection to this program and the project have been marked with a hexagonal medallion sporting a skull. Now, this could mean that only drones with this symbol have access to Absolute Solver, or these are medallions marking those drones who previously worked on this hypothetical research endeavor. Either way, some of the worker drones, like Dahl, have knowledge about this cataclysmic program. The end of the episode Promening telegraphs to all of us that as of this point onwards, Uzi must learn more about Absolute Solver and find a way to get rid of it. If Dahl's warning is anything to go by at this point, because in exchange for all the power that she possessed, Dahl was turned into an absolute monster and a cannibal. And this could mark a big crossroads as well in Uzi's character development. Will she risk using this dangerous program to get revenge on humanity and save the remaining worker drones at the cost of her own robotic version of humanity? Or will she go through with deleting Absolute Solver in an attempt to find peace between the different factions? Or will Liam Vickers do something crazy, hilarious, and deranged with Uzi and her quest? My money is on the third option. Now, to speak about the worker drones and their relationship with Absolute Solver is to also reference the mysterious Puppet Master. This entity was introduced to us at the end of the second episode, and is likely the main villain of the entire series. Now, I get that a lot of people think that what we saw with the super spooky Snake Crab Jay was just the disassembly drone's version of using Absolute Solver to rebuild herself and go for round 2 against Uzi. However, something feels off about that, and it comes in the way that the abomination that Jay becomes speaks to Uzi.
Oh, Jay's not here. We are trying to repair that host as per our directive.
So you are a program?
More like you are our cute puppets. It hurts our feelings you don't remember us.
If the disassembly drones could go this big and bad, why doesn't JC Jensen just unleash a horde of these monstrosities on the planet and be done with it? In fact, the company just sends another J alongside Tessa, rather than using these eldritch abominations. The company is using Absolute Solver to help them wipe out the worker drones, but they've tamed and restricted it. The company's actions do not match up with Eldritch J's actions, or better said, the Puppet Master's. This is where we have to piece together some of the other little details from throughout the show. First of all, we have N's dream where he recalls humans wondering why an ambiguous she would dress up the drones in clothes and hair and the likes. They say it's creepy and it doesn't really mesh with their need for simple workers and brute force. Nori is summoned specifically by Eldritch J to taunt Uzi, showing the same symbol as hers and an indicator of Absolute Solver that JC Jensen is trying to stamp out. And of course, referring to the drones as puppets. If the company could just simply control the drones, they would do so and be done with this whole war. Instead, what we're seeing here is a third party, and very likely, the Puppet Master is the she who created the worker drones, and the one who played dress up with them and gave them a terrifying god program. But for what reason? I speculated in my first theory video for murder drones that someone was actively hacking into the drones. This invasion of the drones is to set them up against humanity. Now, it might not immediately seem like that in the case, since Abomination J was exclusively hunting worker drones. But when Uzi's corruption began, her ire against the humans was cranked up to 11 at the end of episode 1. It's very possible that the Puppet Master wants to create a perfect world where controllable drones dress, talk, and act like humans, ushering in whatever the Puppet Master sees as a utopia. And in order to make that happen, the Puppet Master, as funded by J.C. Jensen to create these drones, embedded all of them with the Absolute Solver program, in order then to eventually hack into them and bring about these godlike entities that would then, at the cost of a few drones, which can be replaced with the right parts and programming, would wipe out humanity and initiate a whole new utopia. Ha ha! Now, I could be really off with that last part, but it's clear that there is a third party using Absolute Solver and that they have clearly stylized themselves as the most dangerous of all the groups. And the danger they pose could be what caused the nuclear explosion that wiped out life on the planet. Either the Puppet Master possessed a drone to make the attack, or a worker drone made it happen in a wild attempt to free themselves from the Puppet Master, or maybe even J.C. Jensen started the explosion themselves in a desperate gambit to wipe out the whole group of possessed drones with godlike powers, only then to discover that the robots potentially held the same deadly program across the entire planet and were now weakened and exposed to further possession. No matter how you slice it, the Puppet Master is a dangerous third party, pursuing their own goals and using Absolute Solver to make it happen. With Tessa now on the planet, we might soon learn the real backstory to the worker drones, the murder drones, and a potential relationship between Tessa and the Puppet Master. So, to wrap up, Absolute Solver is a dangerous god program that grants all kinds of amazing abilities, but at the cost of the drone's sanity, and incurring the need to consume oil. This not only explains what is happening to Doll and Uzi, but explains the current messed up conditions that N and V find themselves in. And since Absolute Solver is a dangerous program, everyone from the worker drones to J.C. Jensen and the elusive Puppet Master is after it. It is the ultimate power that holds the key to all the answers, and for what is going on, and what will happen next. To conclude, thinking about writing advice that we novice authors can glean from this incredible setup are these. Number 1, overpowered characters are awesome, just like Uzi and Doll. But you can still place conditions, limitations, and crazy consequences on them to make things very interesting. Think about it for a moment. Doll could get revenge on V easily, but at the cost of her sanity, her friends, and the lives of countless worker drones that she had to consume. All that power made her a monster, and J.C. Jensen created more monsters using this exact same power to wipe out Absolute Solver, but using this power has started a war that definitely puts Earth at risk, and has robbed N of his identity and potential love life with V, and Uzi will have tremendous decisions to make regarding her own growing powers. So see, OP powers are cool when you make them and their usage nuanced. Number 2, don't give away the big bad and their plans right off the bat. There are way too many stories that do this. It can work when you have a clearly established villain who easily looms over everything, but that can get boring and obtuse real quick if you don't make the characters within the story engaging. Instead, holding back and hiding villains like the Puppet Master and Tessa help extend the narrative tension, teasing your audience with mysteries, and it gives you a chance to set up big reveals without them feeling like they are coming out of nowhere later on in the story. Number 3, and lastly, when we think about superpowers, honestly ask yourself how they shape the world around them. There are amazing examples of this, from Avatar: The Last Airbender, to the Cosmere, to Full Metal Alchemist Brotherhood, and here in Murder Drones, we get the entire plot, subplots, and lives of the characters that have been changed because of Absolute Solver's introduction. If power just exists to make one character cool or give them an existential crisis, then you are wasting so much potential. Well, that's what I've got so far for Absolute Solver. Let's see if Liam Vickers and Glitch absolutely trashed this theory of mine, or if the next wacky installments in this dark comedy vindicate all of my observations and analyses. In the meantime, let me know what you think. Have I missed an obvious something? Has Liam dropped one bit of lore that I don't know about? What are your theories about Absolute Solver? Let me know about all of this in the comments below. And if you'd like to support us, please like and share out this video out here on the interwebs. You can also subscribe and join our ever-growing community of novice authors. Or you can be really awesome and buy one of the books that we have published. Links for all of that and more are in the description below. But in any event, thank you for joining us on this
Planet-wide toxic death storm is supposed to be especially inhospitable tonight.
that we call writing. And until the next video, y'all, tschüss.